To introduce our guest speaker. Doug, would you like to join me up on the stage as I introduce you? Reverend Doug Craig began his spiritual journey 37 years ago today. January of 1980. Wow. He has been a Center for Spiritual Living minister since 1988, when he founded the Red Deer Center for Spiritual Living, where he served as the minister for 8 years. He is currently an instructor here at SAIT, in the School of Business, where over his career he has taught a total of 27 and a half years. I was thinking about how many students, with an average class of 35, that you've inspired over all those years. Doug is also a professional Santa Claus.
How can you tell?
And he takes folks on tours of the Rocky Mountains in his other role of Mountain Man Doug. Reverend Doug's guiding light is, if you change your attitude, you change your experience. Doug, the podium is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning. How's everybody this wonderful morning? I'll tell you, it's great to be here and have the opportunity to share with you. 37 years ago today, I walked through the doors and my life was in a mess. And by getting into this philosophy, I was able to make a lot of positive changes, and have gone on to have just a fantastic career, fantastic operation. My other hobby is children and grandchildren, and I have 8 children and 9 grandchildren. Biologically, I have one, but the rest are merger and acquisition. We could talk about the business later. It happens like that, you know, sometimes. So we've got a pretty full experience. And I am so blessed to have been able to find this place. I'd like to just give you a little idea about how that happened. My life fell apart. I was in a lot of trouble. And I remember going down to my knees, and I didn't know much about God, and I didn't certainly believe a lot of things I've been told, but I knew there was something, and I said, God, if you can show me a way to get back my life, I would make a commitment to spend the rest of my life being of service. You gotta watch what you say. You gotta watch what you say, because the Spirit responds. And there I was having this vision, this dream, and it was lucid, and I was in this old theater, and there was a stage with a backdrop and these big curtains, and there was a minister standing there, a couple of chairs, and I'm in this dream, first week of January 1980, and I'm going, whoa, what's this? I'd heard about this place. I'd heard about it, but I'd never been there. And I go, whoa, what's this? I've got to go see. So I walked in the doors that first Sunday, and lo and behold, in the foyer was the same man that was in my dream on that stage who I'd never seen before. Well, I'll tell you, things started happening inside. And I walked in there, and woof, it was exactly like it was in the dream. And I walked stunned, and I sat down. And what he said made so much sense, it resonated with me. And then partway through the talk, I realized I had sat in the same chair that I was in my dream. Weird, eh? Next Sunday, I'm sitting there, and the voice spoke to me very clearly. And this was about the second or third time it ever spoke to me. And it said, Doug, you're going to enjoy being a minister. I go, what? I'm laughing. And it said it again. Doug, you're going to enjoy being a minister. And I said, okay, but you're going to have to show me how. But maybe I should set the scenario. I had 3 months to go till I was going to court on trial in Court of Queen's Bench. I was looking at 2 to 5 years in prison for trafficking narcotics. I had just come through a career of 17 years. It wasn't all bad. I did some good things, of crime and violence. where 10 and a half of them had been involved in gangs, and I was very good at what I did. Very good. And everything just kind of fell apart on me. You know, it's not a good lifestyle for longevity. And I wasn't going anywhere. And I said, okay. And I followed everything that I was told to do, no matter how ridiculous it seemed in my mind at that time to do that. I followed and I did what the Spirit told me to do. And the key in order to make change is you gotta have faith. Not faith in anything outside of yourself. You gotta have faith that that power and that presence that's in you is there for you to guide you and lead you and to direct your life towards a positive expression and fulfillment of the talents and abilities that you have as an individual. And that's the power of surrender. Now, most of us, we don't practice that enough on a day-to-day basis with little things. This is not something that we need to do when you get a big crap kicking and you're down there and there isn't nothing else. Been there a few times. Nothing else. It's easy to have faith because you don't know what to do. Okay? But faith is the cornerstone. It's the foundation on which we create and build our journey in our life. Nothing new. Jesus, when he called his disciples, called Peter, the first one, and he said to him, upon this rock I will build my church. Well, hold it now. Jesus didn't build any churches. What did he mean? Rock. In the King James Version, it's translated into Greek. Greek for Peter, the first disciple, is Petros, which means rock, solid. The church is not a building, it is us. So upon this rock I will build my church. Peter represents solid rock, faith. So faith was the cornerstone upon the teachings of Jesus and about what you and I need to do as individuals. And it's not something you're going to get out there, and it's not something you can talk about. Yeah, you can talk about it all you want, but that isn't going to do it for you. It's something you have to live. You have to be it. You have to commit to it. Easy to say. Oh, this stuff is easy to say. I've gathered a vast amount of knowledge over the years, and I really don't need a lot more knowledge. I just need to use it. Because you see, unless you use it, it's only knowledge. It means nothing. And so it's putting the walk in the talk that's going to get you what you want and going to get you where you are. Now, is it easy to keep your faith? Well, heavens, no! Remember when Jesus was doing that seminar, you know, the one where the caterers didn't show up and make enough to eat? So he had to, make a bit of bread and fish to feed the crowd and sent the disciples off to the boat. I'll catch up with you later. So after he found they took the boats and he had no way to get out there, well, so being Jesus, he just walked across the water. And he's walking across the water, and there's Peter, and the rest of them go, oh, whoa, this is too much. Jesus said, fear not, it's me. And Peter, here's your faith. Said, well, can I come out there? Jesus said, yeah, come on. So he gets down, he starts walking across the water. And he's got his faith. But then the wind came and the blew, and the waves whipped up, and he gave it over to condition and began to sink and cried out for Jesus. And Jesus says, oh, thou of little faith, and took his hand and escorted him to the boat. The significance of that, folks, is it doesn't matter what you do in life. It doesn't matter what your task is or what your goal or your aim. When you step out, the conditions around you are going to seem overwhelming. And we give over to the conditions and we begin to sink. That's when we need to reach out and grab within ourselves that mind of ours and that heart of ours and get it focused back on having that faith. And the way that we cultivate, let's see what Dr. Holmes has to say about faith here. I like what he says. He says that faith is a mental attitude which is so convinced of its own idea, so completely accepts it that any contradiction is unthinkable and impossible. So, how do you know whether you're walking with faith? Well, it's like this. Are you worrying? You're not in faith. No need to worry if you have faith. If you're afraid, you're not in faith. No need to fear when you're in faith. We've got to ask those, do we doubt? If we're in doubt, we're not in faith. That doesn't mean we deny conditions or circumstances around us, but there is a way to move through it. There is a way to succeed, and the way I move through any trials and tribulations I got is I say, what's the gift in this for me? I might as well look for the gift because there's a learning experience and everything. And as I see the gift, I begin to rise like the phoenix from the ashes. And that's the goal and the objective, to stay grounded in faith and not to give over to worry, doubt, or fear. And that's a mental thing. We got to do this, not with just the big things, folks, with everything. So it's like fishing. Throw your line out there, and pretty soon you find out it's way down the river. Anybody think your mind's gone? Way down the river. So I always go like this. People say, what are you doing, Doug? I'm reeling in my mind. I got to bring it back home here. It got away out of line. So don't think this is going to be easy, and then we declare, well, faith is so strong, nothing will ever shake it up. Well, you know, it was the Last Supper before the trial and the tribulation, and they're all having their dinner, and Jesus was saying, one of you will betray me 3 times before the cock crows. And they all declared their faith, and Peter stood up, it won't be me, Master. No way I'll betray you. But when it hit the fan, and the going got heavy, and Peter was around all this other stuff, he capitulated. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And the cock crowed. And that was a very good example, is it doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing. It doesn't matter who you are. You're going to have that challenge to reach inside and capture that strength that you got from faith and not give over to conditions. And again, this requires practice. Not when it hits the fan. It's a day-to-day thing, and it comes through observation. I'm going to share a couple of stories here, just recent ones where I had an opportunity to walk with faith. Life and death. Okay, let's get right down to the core. So 3.5 years ago, Ann and I were on a holiday over in Italy, and you ever heard that where these people on holidays have these medical emergencies and just about disasters? Well, it hit. I had a medical emergency in Assisi. We took a cab to Rome, an emergency flight home. I spent 24 days in the Foothills Hospital with major surgery. And they were amazed when I got there. They were amazed on the ward. They said, we don't understand. We've only ever had 2 other cases where their potassium count was this low, and those people were comatose. They were laying in a bed, they couldn't move. How did you do that? There's only one answer. It's the answer that I work with all the time. I told them it's the power of spiritual and mental resolve. You got to be clear on what it is that you want, and you got to stay there. I wasn't afraid of dying until about 3 months after I got out of the hospital. Go figure. But I didn't have time to think about that. I was too busy trying to live. So it goes forward 1 year. Now, this is really interesting. He's one of my best buddies here. He's an instructor at St. We're out in the bush up Ribbon Creek hiking. We're 4.2 clicks in. And we're walking along, and he's going, geez, he has bad problems with acid reflux, and he's got bronchial conditions. And man, he was, getting pretty huffy and puffy and hurting, and moved up into his chest, and finally we got 4.2 clicks from the parking lot, and man, he collapses. He's crying. My buddy's a tough man. I never seen him cry. He's in pain. Well, what are you going to do? Well, you see, folks, there is nothing to do except one thing. Get centered in spirit and stay there, and do not allow my buddy or myself to entertain any negativity. You know what happens if you run home and stick your screwdriver in your light socket? What's going to happen? Well, when you need every ounce of energy you can muster up, you can't afford the luxury of a negative thought. So I talked at him. It took me 3 hours to walk him and talk him out of the bush. It was 50 meters here and a wind, celebration. 300 meters there, a wind and a celebration. And then something happened to him that changed his life forever. We had an 800-meter long hill to go up, and he was just barely making it. So I stopped and I did a spiritual mind treatment just to get us in the mood. And you wouldn't believe this. You can't tell people this. People don't believe it. Well, I know you will. His chest cleared up. His breathing returned to normal. The pain went away. And we walked slowly up to the top of the hill. And once we were there, it was all back again. You try to explain that in that book. So, anyhow, I got him there. It took me 3 hours to get him out, an hour to get him in. Found out in emergency, he had a major heart attack with a 90% blockage in one artery. So I went up the next day to see him, and the cardiologist there, the old guy, the head guy, the doctors, the interns, the team, there was 10 of them. And he says, that's the guy that got me out right there. And they all turned around and looked at me. And he says, the surgeon said, how the hell did you do that? Did you carry him? I said, no. He said, how? I said, it was the power of spiritual and mental resolve. And he just looked at me and shook his head, because they still can't figure out why he's alive. Can't figure out why he's alive. Well, those are just two really powerful ones that I've had recent. I mean, I could spend 3-4 days telling you impossible situations that nobody gave me a snowball's chance in that other place of getting out alive. And I did. But there's only one reason. And the only reason that I was able to do that was because of this philosophy and this teaching and having that spiritual and mental resolve. If you do that and stick with it, then you'll get what you need. You might not know you're getting it. For example, first trip on my buddy there, first 2 times I let him lay down. After that, something said, don't. Make them sit. It's better. Okay, so I made him sit. Next day, I'm reading this article on a heart attack. If you have a heart problem, don't lay down. Sit and wait till EMT gets there. Well, we couldn't get any EMT, so we had to just sit and wait till I got him there. But you know, that's the thing. The Spirit will always, always, always give you what you need. Your job is to accept it, to believe it, and to create a place of clarity which it can operate in on, and that's this noodle. This noodle needs to be tended to. Anybody ever let their mind go and find themselves, holy, how did I get over here? Has anybody ever had that? Yeah, all the time. Does that mean I don't get off track? Heavens, I probably get off track more than anybody because I know it. Lots of people don't know they're off track. Okay? So this philosophy isn't going to take away your life. This philosophy is going to give you your life, and it's going to help you navigate your way through things. And that's the most powerful thing. It doesn't matter what you're trying to create for yourself. You've got to bring it back to the faith, to the trust, and to the maintenance of a positive mental attitude. And you know, the other things that Jesus said that was really profound is, he said that judge not lest you be judged. We don't need to spend time judging other people. What we need to do is we need to spend the time taking care of our own house. I'm grateful for the terrible youth I had, because it makes me not judge other people, because I've done most of it myself. So that's the nice part about it. But God gives us all a gift. You need to find yours and to accept it. I didn't think mine was very good. I was always good at talking my way out of things or into things. And it was bad things. And now I turn that, use that same talent in a multitude of ways. You have no idea how great it is to be Santa. And to have that opportunity to be someone that rises above culture and religion, transcends all of that, and working on the streets in Kensington, I get that one-on-one stuff and that chance to pass this philosophy along as Santa Claus. Because I'm always a minister. I'm always being of service for what it is I made my commitment for. And it doesn't matter what my role is. I'm still that person doing that. And I want you to know, and I want you to acknowledge in yourself that you too have a gift. Work your gift and bring it out, and keep that faith, keep working with it. And I want to close in my favorite piece from Dr. Holmes in the Science of Mind textbook. It's on the bottom of page 282, top of page 283. And I tell you, I've worn out the pages on several textbooks from this because I needed to read it a lot. And this is what Ernest Holmes says when it hits the fan. He says, stay with the one and never deviate it. Never leave it for a moment. Nothing else can equal this attitude. To desert the truth in the hour of need is to prove that we don't know the truth. When things look the worst, that is the supreme moment to demonstrate to ourselves that there are no obstructions to the operation of truth. When things look the worst, it's the best time to work, the most satisfying time. The person who can throw himself with complete abandon into that limitless sea of receptivity, having cut loose from all apparent moorings, is the one who will always receive the greatest reward. So I know for you, as I know for myself, that divine right action takes place in our life, and there's a gradual, orderly, sequential unfoldment into form of the highest and best that we are. And as I say it and accept it, declare it, I know it to be so, and so it is. Thank you.